Hello there, and welcome to my Arty Corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter. I'm an artist best known for adult colouring books, including all of those in the Colour Me series, others with the Creative Haven books from Dover Publications Inc., and many others. There's a link to my author page in the description below on Amazon if you want to see the whole list. I'm in between projects. I've just finished a book called Fanciful Birds, and I'll be soon starting on some designs that could be for the cover of the next one, which I'm not giving away yet. It's always a secret until it's released, as it were. Well, news of it is released, as in advertising and so on. So I'd like to welcome you here, and I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you who subscribe to my channel. It means so much. And if you visit here, particularly if you come back again and again and you haven't subscribed, please do so. It just helps Facebook's algorithm get the videos to people who also may appreciate them. So if you've watched me, you know I'm all about trying to encourage and enthuse and explain as simply as I can how things happen. I was a teacher for 28 years and I might be out of teaching now, but you can never take the teacher out of me. And if you like the videos, that also helps as well, and I'd be ever so appreciative if you did. So with no further ado, it's Thursday, it is the 18th of August, and that means, as it's a Thursday, not because it's the 18th of August, that it's time for me to do this week's colouring page for the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group, which I did not set up. So I'm there because it's nice to meet and greet people who enjoy what I do. So this week I had a poll to see what members of the group would like in terms of their colouring page. And they wanted, and nearly half I think it was, wanted four small designs, which I did last week. So there's obviously a need for little pictures that can be completed in a fairly short space of time, which pleases me in many ways. So I thought I'd do one of my favourite kinds of things. I might do a couple with you today because they are going to be relatively quick, hopefully, to draw. Because they're for colouring, you don't put a lot of detail in. You put enough in that it makes it interesting, but not so much that it makes it really difficult to colour. And one of the things that I loved doing in a sketchbook, which I did quite a number of videos ago, and I'm going to make a mess of this because I haven't done any warm-up drawing at all, was to draw lots of overlapping circles and fill them with different kinds of designs. And these circles can be big, like this one, or perhaps a little smaller like this one. And I think with these I might leave some space between them that I can then fill with other patterns. Now that one's floating on its own, so it's going to be connected by a circle there. And this is a lovely way of practicing things, just practicing drawing. Now that's spilled out of the line there a little bit, and that's fine because I will make another one at least somewhere spill out a little bit. It's a lovely way of being able to practice drawing, and there's no pressure usually for these to all be completed at one time either. But having a smaller page format like this means that it's possible and it's not quite so overwhelming. And obviously I said this won't take me very long. It wouldn't do if I'd stuck to all. Yeah, I'm just connecting that with just a little hint of black. Because even though I said I'm going to leave some white spaces, I still want all of my circles to be interconnected. I think that will most probably do. Perhaps I'll just pop one here, and that's where the overspill is going to happen again on the bottom, They're obviously very heavy, this lot. They just want to sink down. Okay, so that's quite nice. And this is fun to do because it does mean that you get to use your favourite patterns or just to see what happens if. And it's that use of pen work as well. So here I'm using my Tombow Suki, I don't know, pen, which is a flexible nib, so I can get different thicknesses of line with just one pen, which actually pleases me greatly. So here, I don't know if you noticed what I did some weaving. So I started by putting this circle in, 2 in the centre. I then popped these 2 axis, bands in. Then I circled around again. Then I put those 2 in. Then I split this space. And I am going to add some weight to these lines to mess with space, as it were. Okay, so that works quite nicely. I like that. It's very geometric, but it'll also be fun to add colour to. So I am going to add some lines in this outer ring, just to help hold everything together, I think, more than anything. There we go. So that's a bit of fun. All right, so again, I do like an edge round designs, as you know, if you've been watching me for a while, like this. And with this one, I'm going to pop a couple of lines in like that. I am then going to aura them on the outside. And I'm going to pop in two V shapes there. And I may just I'm creating this shape again, but I'm having it going underneath the one that's already there. So it's imagining the lines are going behind. And again, I'm going to pop this in. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to add some weight to some of these lines, just to help a little bit, I hope, with separating one from the other. So that's going to be quite fun to do. Lots of opportunity with that kind of pattern for shading and so on. I have got a very big mug of mocha with me this morning. I've been awake for a little while, but there's a fair amount of things I want to get done today, and this is going to take me a while as well. But all's good. Okay, with some of these smaller ones, I think I'm just going to turn them into kinds of flowers, or some of them. I can't go a pattern or, drawing without something vaguely floral or leaf-like there. So this one's going to be a much bigger petal, but I'm fine with that. And the other thing I'm going to do with this one is, instead of putting that border on the inside of the circle, I've popped it on the outside. So it looks like we've got, this is sort of like sticking out of this one, and it gives that kind of weird, sort of like starting to get weird dimensions going on, I suppose. Weird layering. I'm going to do a favourite pattern of mine here, which is usually done in a grid, but here I'm going to do it freehand in here, but I'm going to use 4 points as if there's a sort of like square there, but it's a circle. So it's a variation of well. And for this one, I'm going to leave it like that, I think. I was tempted to put little, actually I think I might just pop some smaller versions of these shapes inside there, just to add that a bit more detail. And I'm so tempted with this flower to add something, but I think I'll leave it as it is. My problem is the middle. I should have put something in the middle. There we are. Ignore it, colour it in, colour over it. It's fine. In fact, I think you just get a dot of lovely glitter or metallic pen there. Okay, so I'm going to take, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a variation on, I think it's a pattern called Swerve. And this is where I have to stop and think. Now I can't make these lines too narrow, otherwise. No, I'm going to just keep going around, I've decided. That'll do. I'm just going back and adding a little extra bit of weight to these lines. Weight is the thickness of the line. So I'm adding a little bit of weight, thickening the line at the ends there, just to help with this feeling that something's, it's adding shadow almost instantly, and helps with that sense of volume, or dimension as people say as well. So that's quite fun. For this one, I'm going to put a triangle inside my circle here. And it's a bit of a wobbly triangle, but wobbly is okay. It is. Wobbly is perfectly fine. In fact, wobbly is what gives things their own particular character, and nobody draws wobbly drawings like you do, so don't ever be afraid of wobbly. I'm going to put a circle in the middle there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split that into 3, just like that. Again, I'm just going to add some weight on there, and the ones around the outside can stay as they are. Okay, so let's get a border here, and I think I may put an off-centre kind of lopsided circle there. It looks like there's a hole into the middle now because of where I've made the lines thicker on that particular oval. And I think what I'm going to do is if I bend those lines, it gives that feeling of this having been pushed upwards, and I'm going to do the same on this side. Now I'm going to add some weight to the lines that are on the left and the bottom of this. I'm going to intensify, thicken even more that line, so it really does look like we have a hole there, and that'll be quite interesting and fun to do. I may just pop something like that in just for some further interest, I think. So that's fun. Okie dokes. got petals here in the traditional way, so how about petals in a crescent moony kind of way, going around the outside edge. Of this particular one. We can go like that. And I'm just drawing a shape in the middle there, as if we've got another one of these kinds of beads in there. And then I think, I say beads, I don't know why I said beads, but one of these other shapes in here. I'm just going to repeat that and pop another one of those in there. But I'm not going to put a second like a borderline in that, because it's quite a small space, but that'll be fun to do. Okay, let's have a look. There's a Zentangle pattern that is, what's it called? Is it Swerve? Not Swerve. And it starts with an S shape anywhere in the middle, and then you just start drawing lines that radiate out from one of the ends. Now I'm doing my best to keep the lines fairly fine where they come out from this, and then I'm going to go around this one this way. Just to start giving some crazy, I suppose, kinds of patterns going on. Then I've got this one here which I also want to go around. I'm going to move my paper around to make it easier for me to do this. Like that. So that's going to be quite interesting to add colour to. And shadow and shading, because that will become really dimensional. It already looks that way. Okay, let's have a look. And then in this one, no, perhaps not that one. Let's go to this one. I do like putting these borders in. Okay, I'm going to do a variation of the Zentangle pattern I've been using a lot of this week. So this involves putting in from one area where we put some lines in, like so. Then we're going to add an orb. I'm going to draw around the orb and connect it back to that line. Fill these little gaps in. And then go around it, like so, until I'm ready to pop another one of these little beads in, or peas or pearls. This is very much a variation of diva dance, I think. For those of you familiar with the Zentangle pattern, it is one of my favourites. So how I haven't stumbled upon this myself, I don't know, but, you know, I guess it is what it is, and you work with it regardless, so it is lovely. So again, this one has lots of opportunity for playing with dimension and volume. So there we go with that there. So that's quite fun. I'm happy with that. This one here. Okay, I'm going to imagine, perhaps not imagine, let's do it. Let's pop a circle in. And then I'm going to put 2 V shapes in. I'm going to put an aura there. I'm then going to aura those V shapes. I'm just going to split that last remaining section in. So again, there's some weaving going on there in dimension. I've only got a couple left to do. My head, really haven't been awake long enough to do this well, I think. Anyway, this one, I think with this one, I'm going to split it kind of into 2 with a bar, and that really is a bar. And I think we'll do some holly ball. So with this one, I'm doing my best to make the lines to the left and bottom thicker. So that gives some sense of dimension, or I prefer the word volume because I'm a scientist. But some sense of volume to this as we get through layers. It also makes these look a bit more like planks or bars of some kind. Now that one started very narrow at the end there and came through. So again, that's got plenty of layers in. And I think I may just be able to get another one in there. So that'll be interesting. I'm looking at these really as samplers for things like colour. And if somebody is brave enough, they could actually fill some of these gaps in with pattern. And I'm likely to do that because I may do another video of me adding colour, because I may have a hankering to do this with some traditional media because I need to practice for a project I've got on the go. So this would be perfect actually for that. But we'll see now. Okay, so I'm going back to this one, and okay, let's do this. And I'm going to do like very much like a seed pod trapped here. So I'm going to pop. These are more oval shapes than they are circular, but I want them to look like they could be seeds. Like so. And then I think I'll just pop a couple of fine lines on either side, which helps with that dimension. Excuse me while I have some of my mocha while I think about the very last one. Okay. It's an insulated mug I've got rather than my usual glass mugs, so it's keeping everything beautifully hot. So it is rather cool here. I've actually had to put some sort of like slouch trousers on, you know, lounging around the house trousers and a fleecy top on today. That's better. Definitely needed that. And it is a bit grey out. There's a bit more light coming through the clouds than yesterday. They're a bit lighter. But it's very hazy in the air. No rain overnight by the looks on it. Okay, last one. I'm going to pop a circle there and I'm going to use that as a basis for this. This reminds me of an eraser I had years ago. I think it was the Maped brand. It was a bit like that. Not with the rim around the outside, but it was almost like it had this case that would flip down. And I think we'll make this like that. That's fun. Absolutely bonkers, possibly, but fun. So I said I was going to leave some white space, and I was going to decide what I'm going to do with that. We're definitely going to have wobbly lines along the edge, because there's nothing a bit like deliberately wobbly lines to disguise any actual sort of like wobbliness from trying to draw straight lines freehand. So don't be afraid to do this. You just put almost like there's little knocks out of the paper there. It's almost like a decollage to the paper. So never be afraid to do that to disguise natural wobbliness. It looks quite fun. Okay, I have got some open spaces here, and there are things I'd like to do, I think, just to marry these together, or to just fill some of these spaces in, because I know that I dislike adding colour to a large area if I'm doing it with traditional media, because it can be very uneven and very messy and very hard to get an even tone. And I just think that sometimes you just have to split things up. And that's where tangle patterns or patterns can come in, even with colouring pages, because nobody says you can't modify or add patterns to what's there, or lines to help you colour in a way that you find enjoyable and that allows you to have success. So I've added quite a few of these kinds of seedy kinds of things. This seems to be one of my favourite kinds of patterns to add in. And we've even got one that's just peeking out there, because we can do that. They don't have to be entirely whole. That one would go behind there, so let's pop that there, that one and that one. So I've got a few of those in, and I am going to add some patterns. I say patterns, they're going to be very simple patterns in some of these areas, not all of them, because that would be a bit on the silly side. But just to break some of these up, or to give some kind of idea, this is what we're doing. So that actually works quite nicely individually on its own, I think. And then if I carry that on up here, then it looks like we've got another layer. And I'll carry it on to around here. I'm not worrying if these lines match up or not. That's not what this is about. But it feels that this is going underneath, leaving this and this here perhaps. I could go around the edge completely, but I'm not going to. Where this is something completely different, like a different layer above. if that makes any kind of sense. So it's almost like we're peeking through, and perhaps I will just carry on with this. On this side, and here I am going to carry these lines on as if I'm drawing them directly behind, imagining where they are. And then that gives me this section here, so this looks like it's peeking through, which is quite fun. And I could actually do some of these lines, should we say, to this kind of section? Well, no, because if I came to this section, oh, I don't know, we might be all right, we might get away with it. And then this middle bit is just different. Or I could do something completely different over here, which could be fun. Perhaps I'll just add another one of these here just to complete that. And I actually think that one's okay. What do you think? I think it's okay. Okay, so for this next one, because I'll make a start with the next one, I may not finish it with you, but I'm thinking of doing perhaps something a little similar, I suppose, to this, in that I'm going to make use of one of these, just one of these. This is going to be like my anchor point for everything else. It's not perfect, it doesn't have to be. But I am going to split this up a little bit in an unusual kind of way, hopefully. I say that, I'm making this up as I go along, you do know that. I'm just seeing what happens. And I'm just using some very simple principles that are exemplified in the Zentangle method of auraing and repeating, and just allowing the lines you've drawn to create that pattern. I actually quite like that. And this over here just begs for perk, Zentangle pattern perk style orbs. I prefer to think of them as seeds because everything I do ends up looking like a seed pod in my head. Correction, not everything I do ends up looking like a seed pod in my head. But so that actually works quite nicely, I think. And then everything else that I do is going to kind of radiate out from this. I do want to put some, ribbons in, ribbon tangles, ribbon patterns. Because ribbons are very versatile. You can draw them as straight as you like, just a simple curve, or here I've got a complex curve. Complex curve because I've got two more curves, or the lines go in two different directions, you know, so like out, in, and then I am going to so that's this one, so I just need to think about where this one would go, and perhaps they come closer together on this side of the page, which will make me quite happy. Okay, so I am going to split this up. Bit looks like a ladder to begin with, but I'm essentially splitting this into boxes, roughly equal shaped, but they don't have to be exactly equal shaped, or equal sized rather, because it's fine as they are. So that's quite fun, because it does look like this is sort of like perched on it or floating on it. And I am going to do, so for this, I'm going to roughly find the centre of this line, and I'm just going to draw a triangle. Now I could reverse it and have a series of them, but I think today I'm going to have them all going in the same direction, like this. If I come up to this one, I can only see part of this, so I can just split it up as if there is one here. I was thinking about putting in this kind of pattern in there, the one from Project Pat 18 Day 1, but I realised I'd have difficulty with the smaller ones, whereas these triangles will fit in nicely. I am going to put in another ribbon here, and I've made this one touch the outer boundary at the top. So I'm going to pop this one in. Here and here. And I really do like these double borders, these double edges. It helps to keep each tangle pattern separate from the ones near it. So that's where we are with this one. So here I am making the downstroke, so I'm going up, down, up, down, and can you see the downstroke I'm making thicker because I'm using that flexible nib. The upstroke can be, it's easy to make the upstroke a much lighter pressure and the downstroke to increase the pressure on the pen to give that flexibility. And it automatically puts some dimension into that. It automatically seems that these are sitting above, the triangles that are pointing down are sitting above the one underneath, to my mind, because that's where the shadow is on that side. So if the light's coming this way, if the light's coming in the opposite direction, then these would be standing up. So I'm going to play with that idea of these being underneath by putting a line at the bottom of these triangles that connects one to the next one to suggest that there's something going on here. And I'm also going to put a vertical line here just to split the top. Same on each one, like so. And for devilment, and because I know that certain people in my, I say on my fan page, in the fan group, really enjoy intricate patterns to add colour to. So that becomes fairly intricate without being impossible. Sorry, I was off camera for the last couple. Excuse me again, I really need a drink. So that's really quite nice. And what's happening here is I'm splitting this space up, so I'm going to have smaller regions to fill with some pattern. And I'm going to do some with pattern in, and I'm going to leave some blank like I did with the previous one. So here, I don't want to have another ribbon going into this space up here. This space is small enough in its own. I don't want to split it up anymore. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have another tucked in circular motif. And for this one, I'm going to do something, I suppose it's a variation of this shape here, but instead of having them roughly the same size top and bottom, I'm making one. I was going to make one much smaller, but I know exactly what I'm going to do, because instead of having two sides, it's going to have three. So it's these arcs here. I'm going to pop a seed in the middle. I'm just going to have some little black areas on either side just to hold that in place. And then I'm just going to add, quite simply, move this round, a simple border in there, nothing more, nothing less. And I might just put a very fine line there. And then that gives me somewhere else to perhaps have some I say ribbons. This is interesting because I'm carrying on these lines here, away and out. So I could do that on this side as well. But they're going to stop here. I'm not going to carry this one out. I could do it there, but I'll want it to stop because I don't want it to go out this way. Oh, it could actually. Like so. But I'm not carrying these ones this way because I want to imagine these are different layers. So they stop there. So that's quite fun. And I also think, let me think. I think I might add this in here. And this one too. So I'm starting to connect things together in a different way. I didn't expect to do this. I've used these lines as a starting point for this, but I'm not going to move them that direction. It's not going to happen. These are just going to stop there, as it were. So that's an interesting kind of idea going on here. So I've got spaces here now for patterns. And I think I will pop some patterns in here. And here I think I'm going to create a space like this. And I am going to draw the outside lines in here. And I am going to have them wobbly, deliberately wobbly. That decal edge kind of feeling without it being entirely decally, but you know what I mean. Okay, so that's... Okay, so how do I do... Okay, this is how we do this. So I am creating a grid here, but I'm trying to create a grid where it's not entirely... There'd be a little bit there. It's not... These lines aren't straight. They're not vertical, they're not horizontal. But this one kind of follows this curve, and these ones follow that curve. I could put lines in going this way, but it would get very messy and very complicated very quickly. Squares or squarish spaces are fine to do. So I want to do something with these spaces. I think what I'll do is I'm going to draw some squares inside. They don't have to be perfect. Because the curves are quite gentle and the squares are fairly small, you can read the sides of the squares as being almost straight. But if you don't exactly get it, or exactly the same size, this will work out. This is the beauty of repeated patterns, is that our brain just makes sense of them and says, oh, you're repeating that, okay, it's got to be exactly the same then. Our brains are wonderful at doing things like that. They're essentially quite lazy when it comes to pattern spotting. And sort of like with trauma, you know, anything that makes you feel the same as a trauma did tends to take you straight back to that trauma. It's what the flashbacks are. And with complex CPTSD, it's often emotional flashbacks. So you'll start feeling, you know, a completely unrelated kind of event will have you feeling similar to how you did when trauma was happening. And you're instantly back re-experiencing those emotions and feelings, the trauma. Even to the point of feeling any physical sensations, and it's, yeah. So, so I thought I'd create a pattern that has some dimensionality in it. It's a bit more intricate than perhaps I would like, except I'm going to create either very simple patterns in the spaces around it to compensate, as it were, for overly fussiness in one area. And this is unusual for me to think this way, so I don't know where this is just kicked in from. That needs a little bit there. But that'll be fun to add some pattern to. I'm partly tempted to put one of these here, but I'm not going to. So that gives us a sweep of lovely geometric patterns there. This one, this area here, I don't quite know what I want to do here. I may because I do want to put some pattern in there, but I think I'm going to keep it fairly simple. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in some flowers where I start with a little circle in the centre and I'm drawing 4 petals in around it. Very simple, very stylised. So there's an upside down U, another U shape, another U shape, and another U shape. If you're not comfortable with drawing them all in one go, the best way is to start with one at the top, one at the bottom, and then join the sides. And you just scatter them around. No particular arrangement. We're not working on a grid or anything, it's just what it is. So one at the top, one at the bottom, and then join them to the side. And even if they're a bit wonky, they work out. See, this one's all a bit wonky there, but I'm happy with that, with the wonkiness, the variety. So we can have some just disappearing off the edge of the page here. And perhaps I can have part of one here. And then that makes for an interesting kind of pattern. I could put lines behind to split that up, but I'm not going to. But what I might do is, I want to add leaves, but I'm not quite sure how. I could either have them free floating, or I can add them to the flowers wherever there is enough space to do so. I'm trying to vary what direction the leaves go in around. I'm not going to get that perfect. And if they touch the flowers, well, they touch the other flowers around them, and that's what it is essentially. It is what it is. And perhaps in some spaces I can pop a couple of petals in just to break up some of the spaces into slightly smaller. So that'd be interesting to colour in. Okay, before I go any further, it's time for wobbly lines. My edgings. I've become very fond of this, I do have to say. This way of adding my borders or my edges into the panels that I draw. It takes away that need for perfectionism, that if I slip drawing a straight line, whether I'm using a ruler or doing it freehand, oh no, I've got to start it all again. But I don't have to this way. So that's looking quite funky. It looks really funky actually. Okay, so here for this one, I think I'm going to fill this here with some lines that just echo this. Which is going to get interesting here because we're going to have some that will come up from underneath that, and that's fine, that works. So there's quite a nice curve in that. So we've got that one there. Here I think I'm going to add some these are sort of like, there's a, on either side we've got a little hump, and then we've got a bigger one in the middle, as it were. So very stylized kinds of leaves or bushes, I suppose. But I think that'll be quite nice to fill this area in. So there's a house the street below me. They've got some chickens, and the chickens are bocking around there now, you know, bark and everything. So it's quite lovely to hear. So that's going on, and I think what I might do actually is if I pop some over here, then it looks like this section is above there. So we've got some open space. I've got open space here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up in a way that it reminds me of perhaps Rebecca Blair. And splitting these spaces up. In different ways. This isn't something, I'm not entirely convinced by this panel, but I know that when it comes to adding colour, things that are more abstract does give you more freedom. That one just touched the edge there, it's fine. When I scan it in, I can always edit that if needs be. It's all a bit wobbly and wonky there. I'm going to leave that one blank, and I'm going to leave that one blank. What I am going to do though is I'm going to sneak my initials into each of them, because I didn't do that in the last ones I did. So I'm looking for somewhere where I can just sneak my initial in, where it won't cause too many problems and issues, I guess. I think here'll be okay because I can squeeze a circle in here and pop my initials there. Got this one here, so I turn that into a little circle. And so I've got 2 drawings here. Let me just pick my camera up so we can get them in all in one go. Sorry, you've got a shot of my lap. So I've got half of the page done. So thank you for joining me as I do this. And I look forward to seeing you again. Now, if you've listened this far, I will leave a comment because I will post the completed version of this with some colour in the community tab later today and on my social media. I think I'm visiting a friend tomorrow. I'm not too sure. I think I am. There's reasons why I'm not sure. Not because of me. And Saturday, I know I'm busy all day Saturday. Sundays I don't usually release a video, so it could be a number of days before there's a video. Don't panic and think I'm not well or anything. I'll be back as soon as I can. But sometimes life gets a little bit hectic or busy. And I've got other things I need to do in between as well. So until I speak to you again, please look after yourselves, have fun, and find time to be creative. Ta-ta for now. Bye.